All right, listeners, get ready for a deep dive. Today, we're tackling machine learning.
Ooh, exciting.
It really is. We'll uncover what it is, how it works, and why it's everywhere these days.
Sounds like a plan.
Our source material is a really interesting episode from the Tech Dive podcast.
Catchy title.
Right.
Yeah.
Machine learning. Simple and to the point.
You know, it's funny how machine learning is often working behind the scenes.
Yeah, we interact with it all the time without even knowing it.
Totally.
Like a silent force in our digital world. So, first things first. What exactly is machine learning? I was reading about self-driving cars, and it seems super complicated.
Well, the basic idea is actually pretty straightforward. Imagine teaching a computer to recognize a cat in a picture.
Okay, I'm following.
Instead of giving it specific rules like look for whiskers or pointy ears, you show it tons of cat pictures.
Ah, so it learns by example.
Exactly.
Huh.
The algorithm analyzes the images, picks up on patterns, and develops its own understanding of what a cat looks like. That's the core of machine learning, teaching algorithms to learn from data, not just pre-programmed instructions.
Makes sense. It's kind of how we learn as humans, right? Observe, recognize patterns, and adapt our understanding as we get new information.
Absolutely. And that's what makes machine learning so powerful. It lets computers handle tasks that would be almost impossible to program manually.
Like those self-driving cars I mentioned.
Exactly. They use something called reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement learning. What's that?
Think of it like training a dog with treats. The car gets rewarded for doing the right things, staying in its lane, stopping at red lights, and punished for mistakes.
Okay, so it learns through trial and error.
Basically. And over time, it gets better at navigating tricky situations.
So it's not just about recognizing images. It's about making decisions based on data and learning from experience.
Right on. That's what makes it so versatile.
I see. So it can be used for way more than just, cat pictures.
Oh yeah, way more. For example, in healthcare, they use convolutional neural networks to analyze medical images like X-rays.
I've heard of that.
They're a specific type of algorithm, and they can spot tiny details that a human might miss.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's like having a second pair of super-powered eyes helping doctors.
So cool.
The potential is huge.
And it's already being used in a lot of ways, right? Like personalizing online experiences.
Exactly. Think about music recommendations on Spotify or product suggestions on Amazon.
Oh yeah, those are always surprisingly good.
Those platforms use algorithms to look at your past behavior and predict what you'll like or need.
No wonder my Spotify Discover Weekly always has something I enjoy. It's like it knows me better than I know myself.
It's those algorithms constantly crunching data and learning from our choices.
Yeah.
And this personalization is going beyond just entertainment.
So where else are we seeing machine learning making waves?
Well, for instance, financial institutions use it to spot fraudulent transactions.
That's important.
Marketing companies tailor ad campaigns to specific groups. Even language translation apps rely on it for real-time translation.
Wow, breaking down language barriers like that is incredible.
It is. It feels like machine learning is changing the way we live, work, and interact with the world.
It's both fascinating and a little intimidating.
True. And as with any powerful technology, we need to be aware of its limits and potential downsides.
Right, the Tech Dive episode mentioned concerns about bias in algorithms. Can you explain that?
Of course. Bias can sneak into these algorithms in a few ways. One is if the data used to train the algorithm is skewed or not representative.
Ah, so the data itself can be biased.
Exactly. This can make the results biased too.
So data quality is crucial for fair outcomes.
Totally. Imagine a hiring algorithm trained mostly on data from male candidates. It might unintentionally favor men, even if gender isn't a factor it's supposed to consider.
That's really concerning. It shows how important it is to choose the right data to train these algorithms.
Absolutely. And it's just one of the challenges we face as machine learning becomes more integrated into our lives.
I'm also curious about the black box problem you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's unsettling that even developers sometimes don't fully understand how an algorithm reaches its conclusions.
It is a big concern, especially as these systems are given more responsibility in decision-making. If we can't understand the reasoning behind an algorithm's choices, it's hard to ensure it's being fair and accountable.
It's like we're creating these super intelligent systems, but we don't always know how their minds work.
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradox. It's a challenge that researchers are working on. There's a growing field called explainable AI, trying to make these models more transparent.
That's good to hear. It seems like a crucial step towards building trust and making sure this technology develops ethically.
Absolutely. As machine learning keeps evolving, it's important to talk about its implications and ensure it's developed with ethical considerations in mind.
All this talk about algorithms and data can feel abstract. Do you have any real-world examples of how these biases have actually played out?
Sure. There have been cases where facial recognition software, trained mostly on images of lighter skinned people, had trouble accurately identifying people with darker skin tones.
Wow, that's a powerful example of how bias can show up in the real world, and the consequences can be serious.
It really highlights the need for diverse and representative data sets to ensure fairness and accuracy.
It seems clear that machine learning is a double-edged sword. Huge potential for good, but we need to be mindful of the ethical considerations and potential pitfalls.
I couldn't agree more. It's a powerful tool that needs to be used responsibly and for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the responsibility that comes with, developing these systems.
For sure. It's not just the tech stuff, it's the impact on society. The decisions we make now will shape how machine learning affects our lives for years to come. Definitely. And that's what makes this deep dive so important. We're not just looking at some cool technology, we're grappling with what it means for the future.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, no doubt. But it's so crucial to be aware of the potential and the risks.
I agree. And it's not just on developers and researchers. It's a conversation that needs to involve policymakers, ethicists, everyone.
Because ultimately, it's about how we want this technology to shape our society.
Absolutely. Do we want algorithms making big decisions without us really understanding them? Do we want personalization at the expense of privacy?
Those are some big questions. Honestly, a bit overwhelming. Feels like we're standing on the edge of something huge, and we're still figuring out the rules.
That's a great way to put it. Uncharted territory for sure. We're all learning on the fly. But that's also what makes it so exciting. There's so much potential for good, improving our lives, solving problems, even pushing the boundaries of knowledge.
The Tech Dive episode mentioned how machine learning is analyzing data from space telescopes. That's mind-blowing. Imagine the discoveries we could make about the universe.
Right. It could help us unlock the secrets of dark matter, find new planets, maybe even detect signs of extraterrestrial life.
Incredible.
Mm.
But I also can't help but think about the potential downsides. We talked about bias, but what about jobs? A lot of people worry automation will lead to unemployment.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, no doubt. And it's a big debate right now. Some jobs will be automated. That's inevitable, just like with any new technology. But historically, new technologies also create new jobs.
So it's not a simple win-lose situation.
Hmm.
It's about adapting, learning new skills that are relevant in a world with machine learning.
Exactly. Lifelong learning, being flexible. The key is to make sure everyone benefits from machine learning, not just a select few.
So education and access to opportunities are critical.
I agree completely. It's a question of social responsibility. We have to invest in education, training, support systems so people can thrive in this new world.
It's a lot to process, but I'm feeling a mix of excitement and, I don't know, apprehension. It's like we're at the edge of a new frontier full of wonder and uncertainty.
That's a great way to describe it. The future of machine learning is wide open, and it's up to us to shape it responsibly.
So what can our listeners do to stay informed, to engage with this evolving landscape?
Stay curious. That's the most important thing. Machine learning is constantly changing, so keeping up to date is crucial. There are tons of resources online, articles, blogs, podcasts, even online courses.
That's a good point. Getting information from different sources is so important for forming your own opinions.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask questions, challenge what you hear, and join conversations about the ethical and social side of machine learning.
Because at the end of the day, this is about the kind of world we want to live in, right?
Exactly. The more informed and engaged we are, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
This deep dive has been eye-opening. I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of the power and the complexity of machine learning.
It's a fascinating field, and it's only going to become more central to our lives. Staying informed is key.
I'm curious, what are some of the most exciting areas of research that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, one area I find really fascinating is artificial general intelligence, or AGI. It's about creating machines with human-level intelligence able to do any intellectual task that a human can.
AGI. Wow, that sounds like science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? But there are some brilliant people working on this, and even though true AGI is still a long way off, the progress they're making is incredible.
I can imagine that brings up even more ethical questions.
Hmm.
If we're talking about machines with human-level intelligence, The stakes are incredibly high.
You're absolutely right. The development of AGI needs to be approached very carefully. We have to
Mm.
think about its potential impact on society, the economy, even our understanding of what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's definitely something that makes you think, raises big questions about the future we're building.
Absolutely. And having those conversations is so important. We need to think carefully about how we develop AGI and machine learning in general. Responsibility, foresight, all that.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into machine learning, what's the main takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is to remember that machine learning isn't something like far off in the future. It's here, now, it's evolving fast, and it's changing our world.
Right, we've seen it in everything from healthcare to transportation to entertainment. It's everywhere.
Exactly. So it's crucial to understand how it works, the good and the bad.
Like we discussed, data quality, bias, the need for transparency, being able to understand how the algorithms make decisions.
And then the bigger picture stuff,
Mm,
the impact on jobs, the potential for both progress and, disruption.
a lot to consider. But I think this deep dive has given our listeners a good grasp of this technology and how complex it really is.
I hope so. I'd encourage everyone to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep talking about the future of machine learning.
It's a future we're all creating together, whether we realize it or not. And the choices we make now, they matter.
That's right. A future full of promise, but also potential problems. But I'm optimistic. With awareness, responsibility, and a focus on ethical development, I think we can use machine learning to make things better for everyone.
I like that. A hopeful note to end on. I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into machine learning. It's been really insightful.
It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy these kinds of conversations, exploring new ideas.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep asking questions, stay curious, and explore the ever-changing world of machine learning. Until next time, keep diving deep.